After a night of camping at the Area B primitive camping area at Hidden Falls Adventure Park, I will now continue my series on the trails of Hidden Falls. Today I will be running the North Peak and North Pole trails. The North Peak Trail lies in the far northwest corner of the park and connects the end of Park Road 1 with the North Pole Trail, which runs along the northern property boundary of the park. Both trails are rated 3 out of 5 on a scale of 1 to 5, and I believe this is a fair assessment, although there are a few off-camber ledges and steep hill climbs that are considered bypasses according to the Hidden Falls map. I am not sure if the trail rating comes from using these bypasses or if it encompasses the steep hill climbs that run along the fence line of the property. After a quick breakfast, I quickly headed out of Area B and onto Park Road 1 to reach the beginning of the North Peak Trail. Started off here at the Hidden Falls Area B campground, worked my way up Park Road 1, and I'm now on this part of Park Road 1. Here's the beginning of the North Peak Trail, aptly named because this is called North Peak, and this is the beginning of the North Pole Trail running along the northern boundary of the park. You can see here, this is North Peak. And I'm about to make my way onto this turn here for the beginning of the North Peak Trail. The North Peak Trail begins as a steady hill climb with undulating terrain filled with ruts that can be a good test of your vehicle's articulation. As I climbed up this ledge, I managed to clip this fairly large rock with my belly pan skid plate. As the trail continues to climb up the side of North Peak, it becomes rockier with a series of small rock ledges. Now we are at the junction of North Peak and North Pole. As we pan eastward, we can see the North Pole Trail shooting across a small valley in the distance as the trail snakes its way up and down hills and valleys. So we're beginning to work our way from North Peak onto North Pole. Here was North Peak. Here's the corner where we panned across this valley here. Now we're going to start to climb this. You can see several different rock ledges along this hill, and this is pretty steep and a little bit off camber. I'd like to point out that this hill climb is the location that I took my 2014 Ram Power Wagon on in a previous video from 2015. It was cold, damp, and slick. Overnight temps were below freezing, so the surface was similar to hard-packed ice. Combine that with trying to drive up a steep hill climb and rock ledges with a 7,500-pound truck, and this is what made the climb as difficult as it was. My tires were aired down to around 18 psi. I acknowledge the fact that it doesn't really look like it should be that hard for any off-road capable truck, but the Power Wagon actually did really well given the conditions, and I was being very cautious not to hit it with too much momentum with it being so slick. Now I'm back at the same spot with a much more nimble and short wheelbase Jeep. The trail conditions were also much more conducive for grabbing traction. Despite the drier trail conditions, the loose dirt and rock can make these obstacles extremely slick, and it makes it easy to fall off your line. You have to be real careful here. If you don't take the correct line, you can find yourself off camber and in a potentially precarious situation, as I had found myself on a previous trip out here. Oops, camera down. This angle really doesn't show it, but these ledges right here that I just came up, they're tougher than they look. If you take them straight on, they're off camber. So you actually have to take them at an angle going this way, and that's actually the flattest way to come up them. There's one right there, and there's one right here. Two different ones, and both of them are the same. You have to take them going towards the fence, and you can see where the majority of the tracks, the majority of the lines coming up have been, if you just study it, look at it for a little bit. This can get pretty hairy. I mean, this is really steep. This doesn't show off how steep this is. If you can see this fence line here, it's leveling off, but it starts to drop down, and you're looking at the other end of the view from the other side, and that we looked at earlier, and North Pole is that way. So you're looking towards the northwest corner of the park. Excellent, excellent views up here. This is the Kenwood D710 dual band ham radio. Faintly making it into the Georgetown repeater from here on the North Pole Trail. And Falls also has its own repeater. Emergency communication is very important when you venture off-road, especially by yourself. KE7 SAI monitoring. Okay, now that we've finished with this hill, moving along, we're going down this hill and into this valley, and we're going to come up to this bypass here, and we are now along this part of the North Pole Trail, along the northern fence line of Hidden Falls. So we're getting about halfway from one side of the park to the other. Okay, so we just turned the corner right here. This was a little steep going down, so I decided to bypass that and go around here. This was a pretty steep climb. As you can see right here, this goes up and then turns, so it can become off camber. I stayed to the right. That seemed like the best way to go for me, but even then there was that corner there where it's got a pretty sharp ledge. It's pretty slick with all the sand, easy to dig yourself in and get twisted sideways, so it can be pretty hairy through here. There's a lot of bypasses you can take around that though, but this is a pivotal corner here. Once you're past this, it's a little bit more smooth sailing on the way out. From this outlook, you can get a good view of the entire eastern side of the park. The views are excellent from up here. Here you can see some people coming in on Park Road 2. Alright, so now that we're past this corner, this takes us to the most difficult obstacle I encountered in the park, and it is optional. This part here is pretty smooth sailing, but it was right in here. Probably get a better view here. Yes, right in here. You can see my tracks are all contorted there because of the back and forth on this side obstacle. You can bypass this. I did find it didn't look as challenging as it ended up becoming, but it did end up being a little bit of a challenge. You can see it's got a pretty steep rock ledge that gets you on a little bit onto your right side. It did scratch up my right rear wheel just a little bit. I had to back down and reassess my line. I had thought about not attempting it any further, but I was like, well, let me try another line. And it got me a little bit off the line there as I slipped off, and now I'm kind of diagonal in here a little bit. Couldn't really back up too far. Had to just gun it there. Almost ripped the bead on the front tire, but held up nicely. That was actually a lot of fun going up. After that, you turn a corner and the rest of the trail is pretty easy going. There's a few switchbacks and you're pretty much going downhill slowly until you get to Park Road 2, and then you just make a right turn and head back to Area B and the main part of the park. Well, that wraps it up here from Hidden Falls Adventure Park. Gonna load up the TJ onto the trailer and gonna head on out of here. Rate, comment, and subscribe to the Not So Ordinary Car Guide channel. See you next time.